Okay, so we're diving into the Bennington Triangle today, and I am so ready for this.
Ooh, yeah, this one's a classic.
I know, right? It's not just some patch of woods in Vermont, though.
No, definitely not. It's like this legendary spot for strange disappearances.
For decades, people have been trying to figure this place out, and it's just become this huge mystery.
Yeah, and the cases are so different.
Exactly, and you've brought like a whole stack of articles and research on this.
I've been digging deep for this
I was
one.
looking at the titles, is already giving me chills.
I bet.
So let's start with like, what makes the Bennington Triangle so fascinating?
All right.
And I think the first thing is like the location itself.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We're talking deep in the Green Mountain National Forest. This is southwestern Vermont.
Oh, wow.
And picture this dense forest. It's like almost claustrophobic,
Yeah.
rugged terrain, making searches super difficult, and this looming presence called Glastenbury Mountain.
Glastenbury Mountain.
It's like straight out of a spooky story.
You know what I read somewhere? That even Native American tribes consider that mountain cursed.
Really?
Yeah, like way before the disappearances even started, there was already something off about it.
Huh. So it's like this place with bad vibes.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. And a lot of hikers, they talk about this eerie silence on Glastonbury Mountain.
Oh, no, that's creepy.
No birds, no rustling leaves, just this heavy, quiet, like the mountains holding its breath.
Okay, you're totally creeping me out now.
Sorry, not sorry.
But okay, we've got this eerie backdrop,
Mhm.
but let's get to the disappearances themselves.
All right, let's do it.
The first one that really put the Bennington Triangle on the map was Mitty Rivers back in 1945.
Yeah, Mitty Rivers, he was a total pro,
What do you mean?
Like, he wasn't some newbie hiker. He was 74 years old, seasoned woodsman. He practically lived in those forests.
Wow.
And get this, he was guiding a hunting party, and he just vanished.
Like no trace.
Gone.
How is that even possible?
Yeah.
An experienced guide in familiar territory just disappears.
Right. It's like, what happened?
It makes you wonder if there wasn't something shady going on.
Yeah, like maybe someone who knew the area was involved, or maybe Rivers stumbled upon something he shouldn't have.
Oh, like what?
Well, some of the stuff I read mentioned illegal activities happening in those woods.
Seriously.
Yeah, even maybe hidden moonshine operations back then.
So maybe he saw something that put him in danger.
It's a possibility for sure. It adds a whole other layer to this.
Absolutely. But then a year later, we have Paula Weldon disappearing, an 18-year-old college student
Yeah.
hiking a popular trail, the Long Trail.
Mm.
So it's not like she was in some remote, uncharted area.
Right, and there was a witness who saw her on the trail like minutes before she vanished.
No way!
Yeah, they even described what she was wearing, a red jacket, which would have been easy to spot.
Wow, so it's like she stepped off the path and into thin air.
Pretty much.
Okay, now I'm getting goosebumps vanishing in broad daylight on a well-traveled trail. That's not just getting lost, that's something else entirely.
I know, right? It
Yeah.
challenges that whole lost hiker explanation.
Yeah, even if she wandered off, you'd think there'd be some sign.
Some trace, but nothing.
And then there's the case that just blows my mind. James Tedford in 1949.
Oh, yeah, Tedford.
This guy, a war veteran, vanishes from a moving bus
A moving bus.
with people on it? How do you explain that?
It's the weirdest one, for sure.
So bizarre.
The people on the bus, they said they saw him in his seat just before they got to their destination.
And then,
And then when they pulled into Bennington, he was just gone.
well,
His stuff was still there, but no Tedford.
it's like something out of the Twilight Zone.
It really is. It makes you question reality.
Like, what if there are things happening that we just can't see or understand?
It definitely makes you think about those possibilities.
Okay, but we can't get too ahead of ourselves. We still have two more disappearances to cover.
Right. Paul Jepson and Frida Langer.
Let's start with Paul, an 8-year-old boy who disappeared from his family's farm in 1950.
Okay, so his case brings in bloodhounds.
Oh, yeah. I remember reading about that they brought in these highly trained dogs to track his scent.
Yeah. Hoping they'd lead searchers to him.
Did it work?
So here's the thing. The bloodhounds followed Paul's scent to a crossroads near Glastonbury Mountain,
Okay.
and then the trail just ended.
Seriously.
It's like something erased his presence from that point on.
So a young boy vanishes, and even the best tracking dogs can't find him, and it ends at that creepy mountain.
I know, it's strange, right?
This is getting too spooky for me.
What could mess with a bloodhound's ability to track?
Don't even get me started. My imagination's already running wild.
All right. Let's move on to Frida Langer.
Okay, what makes her case different?
So she's the only one where they actually found a body.
Really?
Yeah. So Frida was hiking with her cousin and fell into a stream.
Oh, no.
She decided to go back to their camp to change clothes, but never made it.
So she got separated from her cousin, but was still in familiar territory.
Yeah, and it sounds like she might have just gotten lost. Maybe the weather got bad.
But you said they found her body.
Months later they did, and get this, it was in an open field that they had already searched.
Wait, so she disappeared in one spot, and then her body shows up months later in a place they already checked.
Yep.
That changes everything. Was there any sign of what happened to her?
From what I read, they never figured out how she died, and the whole thing is still a mystery.
Okay, so we've got 5 disappearances, each one stranger than the last.
It's a lot to take in.
An experienced woodsman, a college student vanishing in broad daylight, a war veteran disappearing from a moving bus, a young boy whose scent trail goes cold, and a hiker whose body shows up in a place they already searched.
And we haven't even gotten to the weird lights and UFO sightings.
Oh yeah, people have seen some strange stuff in the Bennington Triangle.
And the stories from hikers who say they got disoriented or lost time.
Okay, I think we need to dive into some theories now because after hearing about all this, I need some kind of explanation.
All right, buckle up, because things are about to get even more interesting.
I can't wait.
So we've got these 5 crazy disappearances laid out.
And honestly, after hearing about all that, especially James Tedford vanishing from that bus,
I know, right?
my mind is already going to like the more out there explanations.
Mine too.
But let's try to be logical about this, at least at first, right?
Okay, let's start with the more down-to-earth theories.
Exactly.
So one of the first things that people always think about in cases like this is a serial killer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like our brains want to find a pattern, a single person responsible for all of it.
Right, but with all these different victims, wouldn't that be kind of a stretch?
That's true.
You've got young, old male, female, experienced outdoorsmen, people just passing through.
It's a very diverse group.
Yeah, so it seems unlikely that one killer would target all of them.
Yeah, a serial killer operating in that area at that time is possible.
Yeah.
But the fact that the victims are so different and there's no clear pattern, it does make it less likely.
Okay, and what about the missing bodies?
That's another thing. Most serial killers, even the really careful ones, they leave some kind of trace.
It can't be easy to make a body completely disappear, especially in a place like that.
Not at all.
So if it wasn't a serial killer, what about animal attacks? Could it have been bears or mountain lions?
Well, it's possible. I mean, we are talking about a national forest.
Right.
But again, it doesn't explain everything.
Yeah.
Bears and mountain lions, they're strong predators for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But they don't usually just make someone vanish without a trace.
And they definitely can't explain someone disappearing from a moving bus.
Definitely not.
So maybe animal attacks could explain a hiker getting lost and then something happening.
Possibly.
But it doesn't work for the stranger disappearances.
It leaves a lot of questions.
Okay, so what about foul play then?
You mean like abductions?
Yeah. Could these people have been taken?
It's another possibility, especially if there were multiple people involved.
Okay, I see what you mean.
It could explain why some of them vanished so quickly and why there's no evidence.
Right, but again, it doesn't seem to fit all the cases.
Yeah, we hit some snags when we try to apply that theory to everyone.
Like what?
Well, why would someone target such a random group of people?
I mean, yeah, what would be the point?
And then there's the missing bodies again.
The bodies.
If they were abducted, what happened to them?
Right. Where did they go?
There's no ransom demands, no bodies found anywhere else, none of the usual signs of an abduction.
So it seems like the normal explanations just don't cut it.
I think so.
None of them really work for all 5 disappearances, especially the really weird ones.
Yeah, and that's where we start to look at the more out there stuff.
Here we have.
Paranormal. The things that we can't fully explain.
This is my favorite part.
This is where things get
So
interesting.
you mentioned something about dimensional rifts earlier.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
So the idea is that there are other dimensions or universes,
Whoa.
and they exist alongside our own.
Parallel universes.
Exactly. And some people think that places like the Bennington Triangle could be like points where these dimensions intersect.
So you're saying these people might have accidentally walked into another reality.
It's a wild theory for sure. But there are people who claim to have felt disoriented or lost time in the Bennington Triangle.
I bet that would be freaky.
And they say that this could be like a sign of a dimensional shift.
A glitch in the Matrix.
Kind of.
And what about those UFO sightings?
Oh, yeah, those definitely play into this.
They've been happening for decades.
For years, people have reported strange lights and objects.
I'm always a little skeptical about those kinds of things.
I get it.
But the idea of aliens taking people from the Bennington Triangle is pretty cool.
It definitely sparks the imagination.
For sure. And what about that Native American legend we talked about?
The one about the cursed mountain.
Yeah. Does that fit into any of these theories?
It does. Some people believe that there are ancient forces or like supernatural energy tied to the land itself.
So it's not just bad luck, it's like an actual curse.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah. I can see how this place has become so legendary.
It plays on our deepest fears. The idea that there are things out there we can't control, things that might be watching us.
That's scary. So we've gone from serial killers to animal attacks to dimensional rifts to alien abductions to ancient curses.
Quite the range.
I know it's a lot, but do you think any of these theories are more likely than others?
Honestly, it's hard to say. The Bennington Triangle is still a huge mystery.
It's true.
Each theory has its pros and cons, and in the end, we just don't know for sure.
I guess that's what keeps it so interesting, right?
I think so. The fact that we can explore all these possibilities and still be left wondering.
It's like a real-life mystery that's never been solved.
You got it.
And it makes you think, what would it take to actually solve this?
What kind of evidence would we need?
That's a good question.
Maybe someday we'll have the technology to figure it out.
Or maybe the Bennington Triangle will always be a mystery.
That's possible, too.
Well, I don't know about you, but after all this, I'm even more fascinated by the Bennington Triangle.
Me too, and I think that's what makes a good mystery so good.
The more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know.
You said it.
Okay, so I'm dying to hear which theory you find most compelling.
All right, let's get personal then.
Yeah, let's see if we can shed some light on this, even if it's just our own opinions.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so we've gone through a ton of theories.
We have from the totally normal to the super freaky.
And it seems like there's just no easy answer when it comes to the Bennington Triangle.
Yeah, it's one of those mysteries that keeps us hooked.
Totally. Our brains want to find explanations, like patterns. But sometimes things just don't make sense.
The universe likes to keep us guessing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up our deep dive, I'm curious, is there a theory that you find most convincing?
That's tough. There are parts of a few theories that I find interesting.
Oh, like what?
Well, the idea that the Bennington Triangle is a place where, like, natural dangers are more intense.
Okay, yeah.
Like, the terrain itself plays a part in the disappearances.
I can see that the dense forests, the mountains, the unpredictable weather.
Right. It's not hard to imagine someone getting lost or confused out there and then something bad happening.
But then you have cases like James Tedford disappearing from a moving bus.
Exactly.
And those natural explanations just don't work anymore.
Nope. And that's when I start thinking about the more fringe theories, the ones that deal with the unexplained, the maybe paranormal.
I'm right there with you. It's like there are two types of mysteries happening in the Bennington Triangle.
What do you mean?
The ones we can maybe explain with logic, and the ones that just defy all explanation.
And that's what leads me to the theory that I find the most interesting.
Which one?
The idea that the Bennington Triangle is like a meeting point for different forces,
Okay.
both natural and maybe supernatural.
So it's not one or the other, it's like a combination of things.
Exactly. What if the Bennington Triangle is a place where the line between our reality and something else is blurry?
Row.
Where the natural dangers mix with forces we can't even see.
So it's like this perfect storm of weirdness.
And what if these disappearances aren't caused by one thing, but by a bunch of factors coming together?
Some we can explain and some we can't.
Right, some within our understanding and some way beyond it.
It's a creepy thought, but also kind of cool.
It means there are still things in this world that we just don't get, mysteries that might never be solved.
And maybe that's okay.
Maybe the mystery is what makes the Bennington Triangle so fascinating.
It's like a giant question mark, challenging us to figure it out, even though we might never be able to.
That's a great way to put it.
So I guess what we've learned today is that it's not always about finding the answers.
Sometimes it's about embracing the mystery.
And realizing that there are things out there that we might never fully understand.
Exactly. The Bennington Triangle reminds us that the world is full of wonders, both the things we know and the things we don't.
And that wanting to learn and understand is a journey that never really ends.
Well said.
Well, on that note, we're going to wrap up our deep dive into the Bennington Triangle.
It's been fun exploring this with you.
Thanks for joining us. We hope we've given you something to think about.
And maybe sparked a little curiosity about the unknown.
We'll be back next time with a new topic, ready to dive into another mystery.
Until then, keep your minds open. And remember, sometimes the coolest discoveries are the ones we least expect.
See you next time.